We are ready to get started. It is 1:30 on the dot. Want to make sure we get you on everyone on time here because I know you're a busy schedule. So I appreciate everyone that is here. My name is Andy Bonce. If you have not been to a Wicked Smart webinar, I'm the marketing manager at Midwest Family in Madison. And we started the Wicked Smart webinar. What is the Wicked Smart webinar? We started it about a little over a year ago now to bring in experts and speakers and consultants and coaches and fellow business owners to answer relevant questions right now, kind of going on in the moment. And we've all been dealing with a lot of change over the last year. So we wanted to kind of bring experts from all over the world. We've had experts from London. Chitra is from down in Austin. We have people from the East Coast. So to help serve our audiences across all 8 of our markets. And we've had people joining us from Canada for most of these. So I am a huge data nerd. So I'm not huge, but like it's something that's really important to me. I recognize the importance, and I recognize that, you know, of that how it needs to be focused on more as a marketer, so it can help you navigate your choices. So you're not making your marketing decisions based off of hunches and emotions, because I think that can I know that can get you in trouble. And I was on a search for someone kind of talking about things going on with privacy, with all the stuff that is changing with, if you haven't seen it, with cookies and Apple's changes and Facebook's changes. And that's kind of where the conversation started. But there's so much more to it than that. So I wanted to find an expert to really sort through what's going on right now with data and marketing, and help you kind of see, maybe see on the horizon over the next year what you can do now, what you can do, over the next year, and kind of also be more forward thinking. So I'm excited about our guest today. I'll tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Chitra Iyer. She is the co-founder of Kairos Partners down in Austin, Texas. She is a multi-channel analytics expert. So what that means in non-nerd speak is helping you make sense of multiple different marketing tools, what to pay attention, how to sort through it, how to make business decisions based off of all these little indicators. In today's world, we can track more than everything, but it's almost made it more confusing because we can track more things, and you can make some incorrect decisions if you're not being careful. So she's a chapter lead of the Digital Analytics Association down in Austin, Texas. She's been in marketing and analytics for over 15 years. I even saw on her LinkedIn that she worked for Dell in their marketing team and was a leader there. So she has a vast amount of experience. I encourage you to follow her on Twitter and LinkedIn so you can kind of stay connected, reach out to her, have any specific questions that you want answered today, and just kind of get a chance to reach out. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my slides and pass it over to you, Chitra. So take it away.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And let me share my screen and we will get started.
One thing I forgot to mention, a little housekeeping. This is being recorded. You will get these slides at the end. So followed on I'll be on our YouTube channel. If you go into YouTube and type in Midwest Family of Companies, it'll be on there, or just type in the Wicked Smart webinar. That will also be there. If you have questions, feel free to ask them and I'll field them to Chitra. We also have time for questions at the end. So sorry to interrupt you there, but I forgot to cover that.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
You can take it.
Yeah, and thank you again, Andy, and thank you to everybody who has taken time to join this session. As Andy said, I'm a multi-channel analytics consultant. I love to talk data and marketing. And so when Andy reached out to talk about privacy, had questions around privacy, I was more than happy to be part of this webinar and talk about taking a broader view, not just from privacy, but from data and marketing and its uses in marketing, and what we as marketers should be looking at in today's environment. So what I'm planning to talk about is connecting digital data to increase sales and profit. So it's great that in digital marketing, in the digital world, we generate a lot of data, but at the end of the day, it is of not much use to us as marketers if we cannot leverage it to increase sales and profit. So I'll be touching upon that. Looking at some of the marketing trends in 2021 and beyond, some that are already live, some we already are hearing about, but we may not be leveraging or using at this point. But talking about that from the context of as we plan for our marketing purposes over the next 3 to 5 year horizon, what are the kinds of things we should keep in mind? And then finally, sharing some best practices and tips about how you could get more out of the data that you're collecting or plan for it. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into what is digital marketing data. Most of you are probably familiar with it. We have a lot of customer interactions with our marketing in various ways through various channels. We might have customers who may see advertisements, interact with us on social media, search online, and then click on a link that will take them to a website. On our website, they might view content, they might view videos, they might sign up for a newsletter, they might purchase our products and services that gets their data into our CRM system. They might reach out further into our customer service department, have issues or follow-ups or service questions. They might respond to surveys. Each of these interactions essentially generates data that we can collect, that we can store, and that we can use for our marketing purposes. And that is what my focus is on today, to make sure that all the data that we collect is making it a rich marketing environment for us, is available for us for leveraging from a decision-making purpose, and is going to work harder for us to increase our ROI. Now, all of these touch points that you see is generating data that is essentially first-party data. And as you heard with privacy, with the move towards a cookieless future, it is becoming extremely important for us to collect this data and be prepared for that. As it becomes more difficult to collect data using cookies or more expensive to find third-party data, collecting and managing first-party data is becoming very, very important. So, while there is a cost associated in terms of technology and storage, it is much lesser than us not collecting it and the lost opportunity that we could have from leveraging all the rich information that we would have to connect the dots.
And then Chitra, you had mentioned briefly, could you, not everyone's not familiar with that, can you just, a very layman's term of explain what a cookie is in case people are unfamiliar?
Sure. A cookie is basically a marker that is put on our devices, whether it's a desktop or a laptop, by the various marketing interactions or digital interactions that we have. So it may be a piece of code that would be dropped on your, it's like a bug that they tag on your device, so that the next time you visit the same website, they can recognize you based on that tracking device that they've put on your a tracking unit that they've put on your device that tells you that it is you, Ann Smith, who came to the Land's End website last week, and you're back again this week. So they know what you did the last time that you were there. They can pull up some of your interactions. They can customize the content that they serve you based on what they have known. And they use these cookies even for remarketing purposes. They track you as you travel to different websites and search. This cookie, this bug will track you all along, and they will serve content or ads based on that. All of us have probably seen that in some form or fashion. This should be pretty familiar to most of us. Great question, Andy, and thank you for raising that. I keep forgetting that, at times we are so used to talking about some of these terms, and, we don't think about describing them. So coming back to this, we know that the ability to tag our customers or tag our website visitors is going to start going down because of the changes that have been happening to on the privacy side by Google, by Apple, the big giants. You hear changes that are happening on Facebook. They are taking away some elements of analytics that they make available, but of course, for the business subscribers, it will still be available. But all these changes essentially is leading to saying that all businesses have to be more savvy in helping themselves and capturing data on their customers more proactively than not. So with that said, when we collect data from all these different avenues, how do we connect them? Now, when you talk connecting data, what people will think of is a lot of dollars, a lot of technology. In my parlance, I say simply it is getting a single view of the customer. All you're doing is connecting the dots that you have on your customers based on the data that you are collecting and getting a single view of the customer. It can be as simple as a few spreadsheets, or it could be as complicated as a full-fledged data warehouse with a lot of tools. So this is something that can be tailored to the business's needs, and it will grow and evolve as the business grows and evolves. What is key, though, is the strategy for data-driven marketing, because that's the foundation on which we build this. There are some principles, though, that need to be followed when you think of connecting the data and getting to a single view of the customer. And those principles are know all your data sources, right? Know all the places where you are collecting data on your customers so that you know what's the breadth of sources you are looking at, what's the breadth of data. It's like taking inventory, right? You have products, you want to know all the products that you have, and that's what you're doing here. In this case, it is data. Now, this could be purchase transactions, web interactions, phone interactions, survey data, all kinds of data, but you should have an inventory list of that. Then comes the list of the tools. So you need the tools and the technology to support it. And you should have a list of all the tools that you have so that you can identify the gaps that exist. So if you use Google Analytics, Tableau, you have databases, you have CRM systems, know all the areas with all the tools and the technology that you're using to collect and touch the data. Then comes knowing how to connect or align the data. So if you are collecting purchase transactions and you have web interactions, how do you connect those? What are the keys that you use? What are the fields that you will use or data elements that you will use to connect them? You should have an idea of that. And that is key into defining what's a customer. It might seem simple, the concept of a customer, but once you get down and look at your data, it can be very different in terms of how you look at it. And I like to share a fun personal example here when it comes to the definition of customer. So we like to travel in our family, and we have been to the Arkansas state parks. And very recently, the state of Arkansas, at least the Parks Department, decided to market to their previous customers. And so they started sending out the travel guide. And they sent us not just one, but two travel guides, one on my name and one on my husband's name. So my head immediately went to thinking that somebody messed up. They did not define their customers well. They did not identify the key that they would use in what's a process commonly used when you are dealing with lots of address records called householding, which says there are multiple people in a household, but how do you identify the primary contact point in that household? But soon enough, somebody realized that there was an issue and they did put in a fix, because guess what? In 2021, when I got the travel guide, I just got one and I got it on my name. So this is an example of how the definition of a customer is important when you're dealing with data, especially for B2B, because this can get very expensive when you're mailing, especially for print, when you're mailing multiple catalogs to the same household. Think of email. When you receive multiple emails for the multiple email addresses that you might have, or a defunct email address that you mail to, and your email stats show that the email is not delivered, but in a sense, you were not managing your data, which is the next thing that becomes important. Quality of your data and your governance processes. Contrary to what people may think, data actually has a shelf life. So especially when it comes to email, there is even shorter shelf life than some of the other data elements that you have. Data does age, and you have to have business rules to know how you manage that data and how you use the data based on the age and the type of data it is. And then finally, the outputs. What do you plan to do with the data? What kind of artifacts, reports, dashboards, analysis you plan to use for it? All of this may sound complicated, but it can be as simple or as complicated. It needs to be based on the business needs. It's the business needs that basically drive what you do with getting to connecting the data. What is important is to implement a plan for collecting, managing, and using the data tailored to the business needs. Now, while you develop this plan, there are some considerations, obviously. The first one, your marketing strategy. What are you looking to do in, say, the next 3 to 5 years? What kind of channels do you plan to be live in? Do you plan to add a chat bot? Do you plan to get into virtual reality? What are you planning from your marketing standpoint that will define what kind of data you might need to support it, what kind of tools, what kind of technology or people resources you might need to support it, and that will drive a lot of the other elements. Data strategy and security. Based on the kind of marketing you plan to do, you need to have a data strategy to support that. And that data needs to be secure. We've heard a lot of instances of cyber activity, cyber criminal activity, hacking, and a lot of companies being held hostage to that. So data security is extremely important and is tied to privacy. The more secure your data, the more you can guarantee customers that their data is safe in your hands, the more willing that they will be willing to share the data with you. And of course, all of this is based on budget. All these projects take money. So knowing your budget and the ability to spend that budget to get the results that you're looking for, being able to manage that. And the expertise. You need the people, you need the processes, you need the platforms in order to support these. These are all some of the considerations when you're looking at developing a system to connect the data to get to a single view of the customer. Now, what can this get you? Once you connect the data, here are some examples of what you could do to increase your sales and profits. Reach the right people. That's the basic thing we like to do as marketers, right? Target and segment and get our message in front of the right audience at the right time. It's the most common data-driven task in marketing. And dovetailed with that is delivering targeted and relevant messages. You want your messages to be relevant, personalized to your customers and prospects. Some common examples of that are abandoned carts, recommendation engines like you see on Amazon and Netflix. Hey, people who have purchased this product have also looked at these other products. All that is data driven. All that is based on rules engines and business rules that are developed from analyzing the data in the backend and serving them real time to the customers. Uncover buying patterns, seasonality. If your customers have a quarterly buying cycle, knowing when they should be placing that next order. And if they don't, that is a communication opportunity for you to remind them, for you to encourage them to place that order. Data-driven budget management. I love to talk about this because most of the times when people are making marketing decisions, they forget the fact that investment decisions related to marketing can also be data-driven. And by data-driven here, I mean ROI. So if you know the ROI of your channels, of your different programs, you can use that to make investment decisions. If you know, for example, your email newsletter signups from Facebook visits convert at a higher ROI as compared to paid search, you would be looking to invest more in the email newsletters conversion. So knowing, slicing and dicing your data and knowing where your customers are coming from is a powerful way to make your budget work harder and to increase your sales and ROI. Knowledge of customer sources. What is your business goal? Which portion of your customer base are you looking to increase? Do you want more transactional customers? Do you want more customers who have purchased a certain product? Do you want to increase customers who are ordering, say, more than $500 worth of services? You can identify the sources that such customers originate from your data, and use that to drive your marketing budget, to drive your investment decisions. Similarly, insight into best performing content. If you know your videos perform better than your blog, it should be raising questions on, what do I do with my blog? Do I test different topics? Do I test different ways of writing on my blog, or do I shut it down, right? I'm not advocating shutting it down, but I'm just saying that it should raise those questions, help with those kinds of decisions, make it a more data-driven decision than just a gut instinct-based approach. Uncover common service issues. If you see a lot of customers chatting or calling about specific questions or specific issues, there's an opportunity to reduce operational cost using data. You can use the insights from the customer service questions, using text analytics to dig into the data to find if there is an opportunity, for example, to add to your FAQs. If there are common questions that are being asked that customers could self-serve by going to your website or having access to the FAQs. Or it might lead to an issue with the product that can be fixed, that can be taken to product development and make a more robust product, or a new offering. You could uncover some of the information that would help you with those decisions. A very broadly known example there is from Expedia. In the initial days, Expedia received a lot of calls into their call center from customers who had recently made bookings. And the question they were asking for is information about their bookings. You would think that Expedia had it all figured out at that time, but apparently not. So when they analyzed their data and they found millions and millions of calls coming into their call centers asking about the booking information, they had a couple of simple fixes. They added to their FAQ about how they're going to handle those, or where people can find that information, and they started sending out emails with that information. You would think it's a very simple process and would have been addressed up front, but it shows that even big companies sometimes miss out opportunities, and or the other way to look at it is find opportunities to uncover ways to save cost using data. And the last example is identify customers at risk of leaving, or customer churn. So if you know that at a certain point in the relationship, customers are at risk of leaving you, you could intervene before that in order to stop the loss, because we all know it is less expensive to keep a customer than to acquire a new one. So these are some examples of how data can be used to increase sales and profit. It's just applying the data, the knowledge, analytics to marketing. That's what's needed. So with this, if we look at the current landscape, we know that there are a lot of things that are in the horizon or already in the works that we are all familiar with. in terms of technology tools that are impacting marketing, in particular, digital marketing. Personalization. Personalization is a very old tool, but it still is finding new applications in business. Personalization is not just being used for communication and advertising, but it is also being used on websites to customize user experience. When we say user experience, we're also seeing enhancements there or changes there from virtual reality and augmented reality. So virtual reality is when we experience something that is not in the real world. Examples where virtual reality is used is in the military, medical training, education, some examples. Realtors are leveraging virtual reality in some ways when they are showing when they are showing how people could think of themselves in the houses, in especially during COVID times, where people are not able to go in person to visit those houses, but what it would feel like if they were in the house and they were walking around, and even offer them some opportunities on augmented reality to say, and augmented reality is when you're enhancing the real world. So augmenting how the houses would look with maybe some of their color schemes, their preferences in the house. Some other examples of augmented reality are where you have the beauty try-ons. You can try on different shades of lipstick to see how each of the shade looks, or virtual mannequins. Um, Another area that we are seeing a lot of activity on is data privacy, consent preference management. Increasingly, companies are being pushed to allow users to manage their preferences where they may choose not to share some of their information. So more privacy, increase in privacy, which is also dovetailed with security, as there are more concerns of data leaks, of breaches. Consumers are becoming more educated and opting out and choosing to not share as much information as they may have in the past. And this is in conjunction with cookieless future, which I talked about a little while ago. Becoming important to say that as marketers, we will have to deal with the fact that there may be less data available easily, and we will have to come up with ways to circumvent that or augment that by having more opportunities to collect that first party data, whether this is through newsletters, signups, or virtual events where we gather more information. It will have to be more creative based on the business needs. Another trend that is becoming important, not just for large businesses, but also for small and medium businesses, is artificial intelligence. This is harnessing essentially the power of large volume of data coupled with predictive analytics. So you're looking at finding patterns that previously might have been a little difficult to manage because of the volume of data, but intelligently mining that to come up with ways to improve user experience or serve customers better. Programmatic advertising. This has been around a long time, and probably most of you are familiar with. Chatbots, conversational marketing, these are also gaining popularity now. Chatbots, you see them in many websites these days, so probably not as new. Conversational marketing is kind of taking taking the chatbots into more the marketing side, where you are having a more personal interaction with consumers from a marketing perspective, not just from a customer service or from a chat perspective. Video and content marketing has always been important in a tool as a marketer, and that's not going away. If anything, we are getting more creative with the kind of content that we are generating. Influencer marketing and social messaging apps. Now, in the social sphere, as social media becomes more and more important for marketers from a brand building perspective, from managing their presence to interacting with customers, these are becoming important. And the last, something I find quite exciting, voice and visual search. So you're already seeing devices enabling us to search based on voice or maybe even some images. This is being taken not just from the ability to do this in search engines like Google, but also being expanded internally within companies. To say that voice search, as an example, is being used to help their uh, uh, call centers. So it is very interesting to see how many of these technology uh, enhancements, changes that are in the works we've heard of, we may not be using right now, will become a must have for us in probably the next 3 to 5 years. And all of these have a data component. They all will generate data that can be captured. And so it becomes important for us as marketers to know what to do, what to capture, and how to use it. Plan for this. And that's what I'd like to emphasize on, not so much as a specific trend or a specific tactic, but the overarching idea of leveraging your data. So what should we do from a data perspective? There are some best practices for managing with these new trends, but also with the data that you already have. Look at your data as an asset, like how you would your financial assets, your marketing content. Data is also an asset. Collect it, manage it, use it, own your data. Collect first-party information. All the move towards a cookie-free future makes it very important for us to collect data, find opportunities to collect more first-party data, and maybe partner with other businesses and find opportunities to connect to third-party data. Manage your data. Like any other asset, if you're collecting it, you should manage it. As I said, data has a shelf life. So you need rules, business rules and processes to manage it so that you don't have a situation where it is garbage in, garbage out. You manage what is going into your systems so that you manage what is coming out of your systems for decision making. Uncovered information. So data is data until you transform it into information. You need to have resources from an expertise perspective in order to analyze your data, in order to uncover insights that you can use for decision making. There's a famous quote from Stephen R. Covey, the author of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind. And this kind of applies here. Know what you want to do with your data so that you can analyze it and you can extract that so that you can use it for your decision making. Another one that I love is test and learn. Experiment all the time and learn about what is working, what is not working, so that you can increase your ROI. And along with that, optimize. That's continuous improvement, or Kaizen for those familiar with the manufacturing terminology. It's constant learning, right? Your landing page is converting at 5%. Can you improve that? Can you optimize it? Find opportunities to optimize it to push that to 10%, push that higher. Continuous optimization will help us with that, will help us increase our ROI. Share information. It's called data democratization. We share information, make it available to users, empower them to use it for decision making. We will see a lot more data-based decision making, which will ultimately translate into ROI. And then data security, not to forget about that. It is important for us to secure our data so that the customers have trust in us and share more data with us. This is a very important one, and I know I've stressed on it a few times, but it is important given the kind of environment we are in from a security perspective and from the perspective of being able to collect more first-party data. So all this is great. Um, some tips and tricks for what you can do in terms of harnessing the power of your data. Connect data across channels. So if you have email, social, web activities in one channel can inform you about what happens in other channels. Connect what your customers are telling you are doing, what they are doing across all these channels. So you have a richer data set to work off of that you could learn from, and you can uncover insights about your customers. Maintain transparency on data collection process. This is sharing with your customers your privacy rules, your privacy practices, your policies, so that you increase trust in your customers. Know your cost per acquisition. Many of the marketers know the cost per acquisition, but may not the cost per channel. You should always compare. You should always know how much you're spending per customer, per acquisition, per channel, so that when you make your investment decisions, you have a comparison and you can choose the right place that is more effective, most efficient for you to generate your sales and revenue. Database drip campaigns. Many of us are familiar with drip campaigns, making them data-based and continuously developing them will give us a good pool of revenue stream, a good revenue stream, because it will show us small sets of customers based on business rules who are extremely responsive to the messaging, which is most relevant and appropriate for them based on the purchase cycle or the business cycle that they are in. Metadata, collecting data about your campaigns. It is key if you have campaigns that repeat over time. As an example, if you have back to school campaigns, if you have data and if you're able to identify what your back to school campaign in 2020 did, how did it perform, you can improve on that for 2021. Measure conversions from content. Content is used to educate, it's used to collect first party data, it is used for driving conversion to a final sale. Measure those conversions as relevant for your business and use those for, again, investment decisions in to invest in the type of content that you would that is performing best. Set marketing goals and targets. We all set goals for different things. We all set fitness goals. We follow them. We should do the same with marketing. We should set goals and targets for what we expect to achieve from our budgets for a given point in time, for the year, for a campaign, and then track them, track the performance, compare it to benchmarks. Benchmarks could be industry benchmarks, or benchmarks can be internal historical benchmarks. The comparison shows us how well we are doing. So it will help us answer the question of, so what? So what if my conversion rate was 10%? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't have a gauge of it if I don't have benchmarks to compare to. And finally, use wins from one channel to the other. Basically share information or look across channels. It's a multi-channel or an omni-channel world out there. Customers expect us to deliver the same kind of experience across all channels. They expect us to know that they have interacted with us across multiple channels. And so we should look at the data and see what they are telling us in one channel and use that for the next. As an example, you can look at what social media is doing and inform that and use it in your email campaigns. You can use geo-targeting from your best customers, from your CRM systems, looking at the zip codes, use that on Facebook for targeting. So there are very creative ways of expanding and using your data from one channel into another. You're collecting a lot of data on your customers. It's time to monetize it and convert it for higher sales and profits. Hopefully, I've shared some valuable and actionable, most importantly, information. And please reach out on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with people, and reach out via email if you have questions. I'm happy to answer. I'm always happy to talk data and analytics.
Awesome. So we have a question from John. With the increase in marketing technology, it seems that there's always something new and exciting to try.
Excuse
Do
me,
you have
Andy, I'm interrupting you because there's a lot of feedback. Maybe can we mute other microphones?
Just can you see the question in this Q&A?
I'll actually handle this and field this, Andy. If you turn your mic off, please, that'd be great. There's too much feedback.
Okay.
Turn your mic off. And so can you see the chat from John? Please mute your mics. With the increase in marketing technology tools, if there's just too much feedback, this is not going to work. Chitra, can you see the chat in your screen or no?
I can see the question. Do you want me to read it out? Are you hearing a lot of feedback from me as well?
I am not hearing feedback at all from you, but I'm hearing it from me, so you do it.
Okay. So I see a question here from John Seals. With the increase in marketing technology tools, it seems as if there is always something new and exciting to try. Do you have any thoughts on the right balance of staying on top of the latest tools and tech versus focusing on improving and leveraging a company's existing tech stack? It's a great question. If you are a technology tools geek, you love to play around with new toys, right? We all love new toys. So the question becomes, what is the right time for us to bring new tools in, and when do we make that investment? It's a difficult question to answer, but I would say it is dependent on the business returns that you're expecting. So if you are expecting, or if you have a plan for direct returns from the tool, then it would absolutely be something you should experiment and explore. If you are in the market for a visualization tool, there are a lot of visualization tools there. The question would be, is your business ready to spend on the tool, and what kind of ROI you would be looking for to get from the tool? So those would be the primary questions, I would say, that would drive whether you should invest in new tools or not. But exploration, experimentation, I would say always do that, because that is what is going to tell you how valuable tool will be for your business and for your needs.
Thank you. And as we are running out of time, we do have the last slide. If you want to submit your questions, we'll get them answered for you. You can send them to my email. But if you take a look at this upcoming webinar, you'll see that we've got Michelle Millard talking with us in 2 weeks. The 5 skills you need to make your company more profitable in 2021. To stay on time, I'm going to actually see if Andy can speak with this mic, and if it sounds too wonky and strange, I'll wrap it up for you. Andy, go ahead.
How does it sound? Is it okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So yeah, this is our next speaker, Michelle. She's been with us once before. It's one of our more popular ones in the last this year. So we brought her back on. So she's going to talk a lot about leadership skills and how they connect to profitability, how to build systems, how to delegate better, and really just she has 2 different worksheets that she'll share with everybody that will improve your ability to be a leader, which will directly connect to increasing your profits for your business by having different systems and processes to measure how things are going right now and then improve upon them. So she is, I'm really excited about that. We're kind of planning this out through the discussions. So looking forward to having her on. Again, we will have the slides available to you in the next 24 hours. The recording will be on our YouTube channel. And thank you so much, Jethro. I appreciate the information that you brought today. There was a lot. I definitely think that we should have you back on and dive in a little bit more of the verticals, because there's so much here. There's so much changing. There's so much technology. I think one of the questions on how to prioritize and things like that I encourage you to just pick one thing and focus on it. And if it's one thing a month or one thing a quarter, and work that into your plan and build systems around that. And because you can get pretty overwhelmed if you try to improve upon more things all at once. So focus is your friend. Focus on what you're doing well, and go from there. So we're at time. So I appreciate everybody being here. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you again, Chitra. And
thank you, and thank you, Andy. I just want to say I saw some questions pop up in the chat. Unfortunately, we're out of time and I'm not able to respond to them. So if people want to reach out via email or on LinkedIn, I'm happy to respond to the questions that way. But thank you for having me, and great time. I had a good time on the webinar. Thank you.